Welcome to What's Your Sign? I'm Julia Loken.
I'm Stevie Goldstein.
And I'm the magic castle of this podcast.
Well, if that's true,
Yes.
Lisa, you put me in a world of pain today.
Talk about it. We were talking
my
about it
God.
a little off pod, and I'm dying to hear it.
Oh my God, yes.
I shifted gears here.
Shift my gear. My gears need oiling, lubrication, rest, renovation. Mommy's hungover, just full stop, must admit. Just woke up, like emerged from the cave to be here, which is fun. I feel like I haven't done a What's Your Sign, probably still drunk in a minute. But we all it was Pablo's birthday. We all went to the arcade first. So we were already on a high of yesterday. Like
Yes.
the arcade was like out of this world.
The arcade.
I don't know if you guys were buzzing
That was
after
so
the arcade,
much fun.
but I
didn't want to leave.
The arcade.
I didn't want to. I was pissed.
I was like, what am I gonna be here by myself? But like, I didn't want to leave.
The arcade so over delivered.
It was,
Yeah,
and that
100%.
truly did.
That's rare. We went out of town, not like out of town, just to like Azusa, but like on our way back, we were like, should we stop at the arcade again? Because we still have the wristbands.
Yeah.
Yes. It's too tired, but we've been telling everybody.
Yeah, I think it's like, if you want to know, it's a message. I don't know if I want to blow it up too hard. Because at first when we got there, it was empty and I got sad and I was like, shit, do I need to like save this arcade? And then it got full and I was like, okay, cool. I don't
know.
Calm down, bitch. Like they're fine. I mean, yeah, all you can play wristband. Also, just having free play. If you died, it didn't matter. You could truly get good at a game, which was exciting.
Or play a bunch of stuff and figure out which ones you like. Because I know, like I think Steve was saying like he could just sit at the racing games all day, and it's like that's not really my thing. I like to check them out, but like other ones, I'm like, I really enjoyed this. I want to play more games like that.
Totally love racing.
Yeah.
I love shooting. I mean, they had a top DDR. I can't wait to get good at DDR because like that's happening.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
That's gonna be in my lifetime. I mean, you could really go pro at this arcade because I've talked about an alternate life where I become a big buck hunter. I go to Vegas. I clean up. That's what I do. You watch these Vice docs. It's like, oh, that's all you do all day is you play DDR or big buck hunter, and you go clean up 100K.
Absolutely.
Go back to the arcade, practice it all again. So already soaring off the arcade, and then just had a short intermission before heading to the Magic Castle. Okay, for anyone who doesn't know, the Magic Castle is this institution. It's not as old as we thought it was. I think it's been 60 years. I don't know why I thought it was like hundreds of years, but it feels like it's.
I think they want you
it's
to
also
think that.
It's also invite only. It's
members only.
No walking in. Yeah.
You have to, you might be familiar with it if you watch the show back in the day, Love. There's a whole episode about their strict dress code and how hard it is to get a invitation. I got it by chance because I'm a weirdo in a lot of strange Facebook groups for various jobs I've had where I have to find people. So I was in a Glendale moms group, and a nice realtor named Wesley was like, who wants a ticket? And I said, me. And so I took my sweet love to Magic Castle. LA institution, never been. Also, I came in as a hater, truthfully. I was trying to be neutral, but I was leaning hater for sure. And I tried to, that's just the disclaimer. Not a hater no longer, fan, deadly drunk, easy to get very drunk there. Very generous for birthdays. Just gotta let the people know. Big ass glass of champagne. This is not for me, for the birthday boy. Big ass glass of champagne. A good, cute little dessert. Doubling your drinks. Like they'll be like, here's a double shot. Yeah, that's a nice birthday touch, actually, because it's like, okay. I mean, they didn't ask, which is also a little dangerous, but it was just like, here's a double for you. But the Magic Castle, you have to get an entree. It's an expensive night. Not as I thought it'd be more expensive, but it wasn't cheap. But it's like you have to buy an entree. You got to pay for an entrance ticket. There's fee.
It's especially expensive for the quality. I think that's the and not the
no one's
drinks,
going there for the food.
The food is like not and then you're like, I can't believe I spent like what X amount of dollars on this like overcooked dry steak or whatever. But
totally,
it's
you
edible.
don't go,
it's not like
Well, and also the after dinner is the show. So I think we did it right because we're like, we ate a little bit before we went because we knew the food wasn't going to be bomb. We got like the smallest filet mignon, which was fine. It wasn't, I thought it was going to be worse. Was fine. Got a shrimp cocktail. Like we stayed in the safe snack zone because we didn't want to be too heavy. That was the other part of getting drunk. We didn't want to be too heavy and didn't want leftovers because we're going to be sauntering around this castle. My other advice, I would have gotten there earlier because I wanted to check out. They have like, it's like hard. There's no other good descriptor for this besides like Hogwarts, right? It's like, oh, here's a bar on this level. Here's a bar on that level. Here's a library owl bar. You're not allowed to take pictures. You're not allowed to take video. I'm very curious if this has been always a rule or like of the modern phone era. Like, has it always been like, no, like our secrecy, don't take pictures? I would think so.
I think so. I mean, I haven't been in like 8 years, but definitely then it was just as strict and maybe even more so. I don't know. I feel like we weren't allowed to have our phones. I don't remember how, but yeah.
Everyone was, I thought some people would maybe, I'd catch people breaking the rules, and it was kind of freeing to forced to be present for an evening too, because it was like, you know, this phone is, I mean, this thing's going on airplane mode. No need to check. I think I got drunker because they do require the men to wear suits, and you know, you have to dress up gowns. It was, and then maybe it's this steamy tropical storm summer we're having. It was a little moist inside. It was a little clammy. So Pablo's like sweating in the damn suit. I'm in my like slinky dress, breezy,
having a great time.
It's comfortable. Totally. So I think he told me this morning, we did our report backs after watching a lot of David Copperfield when we got home last night, because this is like the role we were on, where he was like, I was so stuffy. He's like, my only negative review, I was so stuffy. He was like, I was scared if I got drunk, like, where do I go puke? Like, I don't and also I don't want to be puking there and like making the guy who invited us from Facebook look bad. And it'd be a really bad place to be too drunk. Very limited bathrooms. Wouldn't recommend it. But people were like, you'd hear people giggling in one other room and giggling over here. It was like very like, I was almost like, when do we start eyes wide shut?
Yeah.
Fucking, you know, like there was like there was a splash of that. And then there's like a seated maggot.
Yeah, I was like, show. I do think there is a level of a bar where you would go into, like, you'd be like, oops, wrong room, like, or right room, you know.
And it was like everyone's dressed up. Like, I get it. I almost think no pictures and videos, and I get why they do it, is almost a disservice, because I think if I saw more of this as an outsider who thought it was corny, I'd be like, oh, this isn't corny. This is actually cool. And I'm sure I
don't think they want people coming,
but they don't want that. They don't need that. And how much is a membership? It's probably thousands of dollars. One would think.
I thought you had to be invited by a magician.
Yeah, I was like, I think you need to be a magician to be a member. So, like, it's not a club. This is a magician's place. So you either have to like know someone, either be a magician yourself who gets gets inducted into the membership or whatever, or you have to know someone who then gives you the guest passes that you have access to, because they do get a certain amount every year to give out to like friends and family to bring them.
I don't know, because they weren't trying
that makes sense.
Tell us we could come back. I thought last time
there was a lot of energy about coming back. There was a lot of like, come back, bring your friends, and I'm like, but it's hard to come here. So, like,
I remember that too, but it's been so long, I don't remember exactly how it works.
Someone demystify this process for us, because
someone talk. You can
we'll go do our magic there.
Yeah,
you can go on
podcasting.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pro magic.
The tricks too. I mean, like, how does a bird come out of a sleeve? I don't know.
Hey,
you know, like a cat out of a literal hat. It was just very funny to be very, and Pablo's birthday was so Leo, of just childlike arcade magic. Like, it just, and it was Leo new moon as well. So it was just like all very of that. But I was impressed. But the up close magic was cool too. Like the card shit was like, I mean, also I was so drunk. I'm tipping like 50s. Like, I'm going crazy. Like last night, I was just like, the magicians had me. Which makes me think about the Magician Tarot too. Like I'm like in the world of illusion and magic I never pull the magician. I just don't think much about like magicians and illusionists.
Did you see the big shows or did you see mostly the small rooms?
We mainly saw the big show. Maybe it's because it was a Tuesday too. We sat and saw a big show, which like one guy was like on America's Got Talent. And we did like the music choices for magicians is very funny. Like, you know, with woo woo wellness, there's a lot of, we hear the worst of the music, but like magicians take it to like a new level of like sushi restaurant, yoga, but then like mystery. And like, I don't know where they get these soundtracks. Also would love that demystifying, like where do they pick their playlist? And their names are great. It's like, I mean, this was a real magician. He was really good. Like Mondre is coming to the stage. And yeah, just we're truly watching a lot of Penn and Teller. I don't know, like some of the shit these people are doing is like, even if it is like, you tell me how you did it, the fact that you can even do this in front of me, like we were drunk, but we're not like, you know, like we're watching the up close card magic. We're like, we know it's going to go under the cup. Like it's going to go under the cup, but how do we still not see it going under the cup? It was cool.
I kind of want to see Penn and Teller before it ends.
Oh, we're looking up Copperfield's performing twice a night, every night in Vegas. It's just wild. We were watching his flying videos from like the late 80s, early 90s. Have you seen them?
No.
You guys, I'm going to link this. I guessed how it was done, I will say. And it's not fully confirmed, but he must be using magnets. He's literally just jet propelling, flying around a stage, truly no strings, nothing. And I'm like, but he has such control. He picks up a woman from the audience, floats her away like Peter Pan. I was like, are you kidding me? Dang. Fucking like flood the stage on site if that ever. First of all, man, being able to pick you up is like crazy. And then being able to fly away with you is the next level. He made the Statue of Liberty disappear. I don't know. We were again drunk. Hey. I fell asleep in my dress with like David Copperfield on the screen. Magic. But it was, if you can get yourself a ticket to the Magic Castle, I fully endorse. I think it's a charming place. Feels like if I could go once a year, I'd be like, that'd be thrilling. But the magic community, it's very, there's a lot of Twin Peaks, Velvet Room. Just that building alone is cool as shit. But drink like 6 rosés, and now I'm here, and it's Virgo season. And so Virgo seasons help me.
What Virgo wouldn't want to drink 6 rosés? I mean,
I know. I think this is
set on.
Well, Leos and Virgos, I think they have more in common. Of course, signs leading into each other always do. But they're not as starkly different as their opposition. Even that, again, every sign has something in common. That'd be a fun like workbook project. It was like, what are like the similarities we can find between each sign and differences? Because there's none that's like, oh, that's a totally different from this sign. Okay, I'm done talking because I'm literally should not be.
You're totally fine. You're doing amazing, sweetie.
Yes.
Help me.
You don't need it.
Oh, this is a good plug. You want to watch my face? Come on YouTube. YouTube.com/ it's what's your sign?
What's your sign on YouTube? Find us. Subscribe, like, comment, share.
You both have been. We've talked about the Magic Castle.
But I only went when I was a little kid.
Well, hopefully I have this realtor hook. I could have brought up to 6. So I mean, I had made it. I had to make it special love time for this year. But of course, I'm hitting up this realtor every year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe hit up your local real. I don't know.
I like know a magician, sadly, and there are like other tickets where you don't have to do dinner. There are like other ways in. So that would be ideal.
They do have a brunch that was also like a different price level. Oh, another thing about last night, which of course it's a birthday place, but like many birthdays, and not even just many birthdays. A few of the people who are across the table from us having their birthday were like, because Pablo got a button that says like, it's my magical birthday, Pablo, which was very Disney as well. Like we're back in a Disney sort of theme. Disney Wish. But they'd be like, "What's your birthday, Pablo?" And he's like, "Today, like August 15th." They're like, me too, me too. Like everyone was like August 15th. So that was kind of cute too. Because it's not always that you get everybody on the same birthday. But yeah. Anyway.
I love it.
Yes, magic is real. Magicians are, I don't know if I want to say cool, but they're definitely interesting. There's corny. It's still corny. Lots of scarves and candles and Ren Fair. Almost, I keep calling everything Ren Fair, but it was Ren Fair adjacent for sure.
Anything that you're getting good at is corny because you have to like be obsessed and do it a bunch and like be sincere about it because it takes that effort. So I think that like the more we can lean into corniness.
Well, and magicians are like mimes too. I don't know if every magician is like this, but they don't talk. They're just doing trick. I mean, the card people up close would talk and be like snazzy and kind of casino-y, but like the onstage performers were very mime and scarves. So they're doing a lot with their face and like a lot of drama. It's like very camp, of course.
Yeah. Well, I think they have to distract you somehow. In close-up magic, you can do it with your voice, but on a big stage like that, it has to be elsewhere. I think the thing that makes magic corny to me, and maybe this will get us into today's topic, is there is like a level of preparedness to being able to always pull a fake thumb out or something means you always have that on you. And so it is just kind of this like, that to me makes it feel like lame in a way. I mean, I'm blown away every time. Don't get me wrong. I'm never figuring out the trick, but like it is to me, I'm just like, oh, you've like had that card in your sleeve all day, or like what's the thing where it's like, yeah, there's a level of preparing and
they walk around with that thumb, the card's in the sleeve, the quarter is always there.
The suit maybe that's the next new magician thing, naked magic. Like you have nowhere to hide any of, well, I guess there's a few places you could still hide things, but just the like full bare illusion. But also looking at the magician card, like one of the keywords too is resourcefulness, which I think goes into the Virgo season. It's like you are just working with things that already exist. You're not pulling in anything totally out of the ordinary, but it did at times feel like this was just magic. Like this was just, there's no physical explanation for this.
The magician card too, it's like each of the elements and all of that kind of thing, where it's using a little bit of having everything and being able to use it. Where I think, something that's fun is like an uncle doing a magic trick at a thing because he doesn't have all the stuff, so he has to work with what he has or whatever. Someone pulling a quarter behind your ear as a kid feels like just as magic because they're using what's in the room or whatever. They don't have all of the elements, if that makes sense.
I think Virgo is very magician because I think it also is about that like mutable capturing the moment thing too, which is like when all of those elements come together, like you're talking about, and also like changing something from something didn't work and now it works all of a sudden. Like there is that like, whoa, before our eyes, this became something else, or like just at a moment before it's chaos, but then at a different moment, it's magic.
I was wondering, I'm like, because I know like only my big 3 tarot cards for the sun signs, because I'm not like love tarot, but not a practitioner, and I didn't realize Virgo's the hermit. It makes sense in a very like stereotypical Virgo way. I was just curious if any of them had the magician as their
isn't it Aries?
I thought it was Gemini, maybe.
Gemini's the love. This is
the lovers.
Teen Vogue.
No, you're right. The lovers, the duality. I don't know if anyone is the magician. I think Aries is
the emperor. I'll quickly run through. Aries the emperor, Taurus the hierophant, Gemini the lovers, Cancer the chariot, Leo strength, Virgo the hermit, Libra justice, Scorpio death, Sagittarius temperance, Capricorn the devil, Aquarius the star, and Pisces the moon. Interesting.
Oh, I always thought it was the numbers, so that's interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Like magician is one. So that's why I
Mhm.
always thought it like went like that.
Yeah, I'm curious how these are who picked them, because I've heard a few of these before, but
a
I haven't
bunch
looked
of
at the
these
whole.
other things are saying that it's associated with Mercury, which is what you were just saying, Julia.
Yeah, I was like, I know it's a
going
mercurial
with the
card.
planet. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Because I know there are also planetary tarot that you would do as well. Again, not as well versed in tarot. Though love their work, huge fan.
And this feels like very early astrology for me. I'm like, I don't know any of the other signs. I've only looked at mine, and
hell yeah,
here we are.
No, I think that mercurial for sure. And in talking about Virgo, we got to talk about that. And I think that that's like I feel like we actually do a good job of always being like, hey, Virgo, we got you. We're going to make sure that we talk about things other than being organized and being, whatever.
Yes.
But I do think that is, if we are talking about this Virgo season in particular, coming through as part of the Venus retrograde kind of like portal that we're in, having a Mercury retrograde. We'll get into the breakdown of the weeks and the transits in there. But I do think that this can be a very like magical, transformative, we've got a lot of things working at our disposal kind of thing that like, if you are able to distract both yourself and others, kind of like, I think it is those equal parts of like that faking it till you make it, putting on a good performance, that I think is also a very like, I don't know if that necessarily is a Virgo trait always, because I think that Virgo is also, because it is Mercury ruled, it is very communicative and self-disclosing, and that's where we get some of those kind of like self-deprecating, neurotic associations. And so I don't know if Virgo is always the more like fake it till you make it, especially coming from Leo season. But I do think in this one there is a little bit of an invitation to be like, just like go with it and keep like, trust that this is the process that we're in, and we're gonna be okay.
I think they can I think the mutability comes back in there, where it's like they can if that's what the price is to pay for whatever it is they need or want. But I don't think it's like as like on as Leo has to be, where Virgo is like, is this the important thing I need to be on for, or should I save that for this other thing I'll have to be on for?
It's interesting because I'm thinking of the Mercury part of it, and I find like I've like studied communication. I have a degree in it, and so I find it interesting because I think sometimes the better you are at it, like the worse it is for you. Not thinking about myself necessarily, but I think sometimes you see people that are super clear with their boundaries, or super able to talk about difficult topics or whatever, and it makes other people like afraid, or like it makes other people shut down sometimes. Especially because I think Mercury and Virgo specifically are like the type of people that are firing on all cylinders. They usually, I think, can get into flow pretty easily and kind of, spot things quick and that kind of thing. And then if other people take a little longer processing, sometimes it leaves them feeling like they didn't have space to present their feelings or present their I don't know, their side of things, or talk at all, or be the one to pick out a thing in the conversation, or follow a path or whatever. And so I think the Hermit is an interesting representation of that sign, because it is about, taking time, being introspective, like taking breath, not just continuing without having things be multifaceted and in that like self-reflective way.
That made me, I love all that. I think it's like, I think the the mercurial message of Virgo is like very important. And I was thinking about it this as I opened my eyes for the first time this morning, but I was thinking about like, of course, Gemini versus Virgo in their mercurialness. And I've like just had a very stoner bone. I'm like, oh, they square. Like they're Mercuries, but they're square Mercuries. Unlike Taurus and Libra with their Venus, where they're just quincunx. And like, you know, you can look into those patterns too. But I like, it just kind of like clicked on. I'm like, oh, they're both super mercurial, but very different, bringing very different energy of like what it means to be mercurial. So I think it also just, Virgo broadens our definition of what it means to be that good communicator. I do think it's true. I think Virgos just know so hard what they're talking about that I think Gemini can dumb it down where Virgo's like, no, catch up to like what I'm giving you.
Yeah. I think Virgo is like the doing something with the information versus just continuing to gather information. And because it's like we can just go back and forth. To me, it feels like that like you know, I'm trying to think of like what game it is, and I'm thinking of where it's like you get to a certain point and you're just back and forth. Like no one's gonna like win in this back and forth.
Like
thing.
Air hockey yesterday.
Oh my god!
Yes,
four person air hockey. I can't believe I forgot to not bring that up.
Yeah,
crazy shit.
If we are just countering and counterpointing each other to death, you know,
it's like tic-tac-toe when you both know how to play too good. It's like, well, this is not even fun because we're both too smart to play this game.
Yeah, where it's like, that's what's going to happen. But I think that Virgo is like, yeah, but I also I made a choice to see this thing through. And now I know the problems with a thing instead of just saying like, here's what works, here's what doesn't. And this is how you get the best kind of like results. Not just, oh, well, this is information. And did you know this too? And this and this and this. And I think that that's where that square energy comes from is like, yeah, but also there's like, there's physical stuff too, because it is that earth, you know, mutable earth, where it's like, yeah, did the stuff grow or not? Like you could keep giving me facts about what kinds of things are there, but like, can you grow food? Can you do the thing? Can you make something happen from what it is that you, from the information that you gathered? Can you synthesize that into something that we can do something with? That's
the
useful.
Practical application then follows the instruction.
And I think for us coming through this Venus retrograde, coming, you know, kind of getting the tail end of that, but we're still going to be in the shadow. So we're going to be feeling all of that. And then having the Mercury retrograde, I think it is very much going to be about us distilling down, like, what are we doing with this information and what's working for us and what's not. You know, that's always the Mercury retrograde, you know, kind of thing. It's like what's working and what's not, but really like, okay, I'm getting information. How does this stack up against what I've learned about myself during this Venus, what I've decided my values are, and how am I making this all kind of, how am I synthesizing these things together and reorienting myself based on this information.
That's why it's called towards service too, right? Like that's why and I think we forget sometimes that service is something where it's like you often get people just being horrible to you or having a bad day and taking it out on you, or like whatever the thing is, writing a Yelp review, those kind of things. And the fun part of that, and I think the growth part of that is like I remember like somebody wrote a horrible review of me at a bar I used to work at, and my boss like wrote back a really mean response to them. And I didn't even know he had seen it. Like he didn't come up to me and say like what happened or whatever, but knowing that other people see your service, see what you do and have your back in that way, it is like just seeing that online and being like, whoa, he like kind of went at them or whatever. It was like, oh, he like cares about me and supports me and isn't gonna like fire me because of a review or whatever. So remembering the support part of it and all of those things for, I think, especially for Venus retrograde time, especially going into, you know, what we're going to experience this Virgo season.
I think too that in that example, especially, is that so much of it is about the acknowledgement that there are problems, and it's about how do we solve problems, and not that they don't exist, not that we're not going to encounter those sorts of things where it's like, what do you do when you come up against those things? And so it's like, yeah, service doesn't imply that there will never be disservice or like whatever, you know. It's how do I respond to that? How do you, that is just as much a part of it as as getting ahead of it is also going, when something isn't for someone, how do you handle that? And if you are known to be someone who knows how to handle those situations, but you on the other side can't also go, oh, well, yeah, that's disappointing, but this person did their best to accommodate me. And now I know, like, I also feel supported in that way too. I think it's that, like, I don't know, not reality, but it's the, again, in that kind of like neurotic way, it's those things of Virgo of being that like critical thing, because we know that there are issues or whatever. And it is both it's not ignoring them, it's responding to them and accounting for them, and being honest about that, you know? This Virgo season starts August 23rd. The sun ingresses into Virgo at 2:01 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Adjust for your time zone, obviously. This is the same day that Mercury stations retrograde, a little bit later in the afternoon, just before 1 o'clock. Mercury will station retrograde at 21 degrees and 51 minutes of Virgo. As we've been talking about, Virgo is ruled by Mercury, so Mercury's in its domicile. While it will be retrograde, I do think this is perhaps a better place for it to be retrograde than others. And I think also a mutable Mercury already that is kind of used to going both ways, if we will, I think is going to be more comfortable, although it might also be more exacting because it is Virgo and it is in its domicile, that this might be really like, this is very much a paperwork one for me, where it's like, definitely double check that you cross those things, because you can get got on those technicalities. This does feel very technicality kinds of things,
Yeah, I feel like it's even more organizational. You can't find that photo you need for a thing because you've screen capped so many times that you have duplicates of everything's so messy that it that kind of Mercury retrograde miscommunication stuff.
Sure.
I don't know.
No,
absolutely.
It feels like Virgo Mercury retrograde feels very like, oh, we get in the next day because we didn't factor in the time change, because it's actually it's very like literal. And it's like, oh shit. So, and I think too, like checking your, maybe because I'll travel right after this, it's like checking that your passport's not expired. So it's like having or if, when does this come out? A few days before Virgo seasons, like updating your computers or like making storage space, like very like literal means of keeping. And it's interesting too that we're starting off Virgo season with Mercury retrograde in its sign, not exactly the same as Leo season, starting off Leo season with Venus retrograde in Leo, because it's, if the sun could go retrograde, then maybe that'd be more of its thing. But we're kicking off both Leo and Virgo season in retrogrades, and it just feels very astrology screaming, hey, notice these Leo Virgo things. And of course angling and then on the planets that are retrograde around it. I think wherever you have Leo and Virgo in your chart, how can that not be special attention to that zones? It's like, it's just too loud of like a please fix, clean, check in, maintenance on whatever is happening in this zone.
Absolutely. Right after the sun moves into Virgo, we get a trine from Mars to Pluto. Mars will be at 28 degrees and 23 minutes of Virgo, trining Pluto at 28 degrees and 23 minutes of Capricorn, which I think is like, what a way to start in terms of
clean house
of this, of much. Of cleaning house, or either being like,
not like
hey,
literally or maybe literally, but like I think it feels removal.
Yes, absolutely. In that way of like both getting a head start on what you're doing, but also like the all-encompassing implications of not doing those things. And not to be scary. I don't mean it like that, because it's not, but it is that, like, I mean, even thinking of the duplicate screenshot one, where it's like, oh no, this isn't just a like, I got to delete some things. This is I need to develop a new workflow in here, because I should have, or now I'm going to make files for all of the like I'm going to have folders in my photos where everything goes, so this never happens again. And whatever, like that kind of, those kinds of things of thinking of it, I think more transformationally really clearing stuff out as opposed to just like taking out the trash.
It makes me think of like, and I've done this with other, not you guys, work partners in the past, because I'm finishing up taxes and stuff. And it's like, oh, when you're organizing your Google Sheets, don't do just at Gmail, put the full .com. So it's copy and pasteable. Like if you're putting dollars, you have to put cents for the tax. Like, so, or, oh, is this $45 or $450? It's like, oh, just like you're already here and doing it. So just add on to that step. And I'm again, drunk person on the mic, circling back to Mercury retrograde just for a split second. We'll have a full episode on Mercury retrograde the next week. So if you're like, I need more on this, we always talk about the Mercury retrograde. So you're welcome.
Yeah, we'll focus on that. While it is a highlight, and it's definitely going to keep coming up, in the
and maybe we can talk about more on that episode too. But I was just wondering when we had Virgo Mercury retrograde, and we did have a little bit of one last fall, and we've had a lot where it starts in Virgo and changes signs, and this is our first like in Virgo one. We can talk about it. Well, okay, I'm done.
It's our first ever,
or first in some years.
Okay.
Yeah. The last, like, there was one in 2016, 17, but it was also another like started in one sign, changed over. Same with 2022, and then this is our first like just in Virgo Mercury retrograde.
Yeah, I think it's good to I mean, I will celebrate Virgo and Mercury go well together, being in that sign longer. I mean, I think we all remember Gemini Mars and how frustrating that was, but these two things seem to fit together, so hopefully it'll be a little bit less of a burden, but still obviously check your stuff and find your thing you want to work on for that period of time. It's
and I think that just that preparation, again, we'll talk about it more. I don't want to do too much, but like that it's there. The point is to find those things that we need to reorganize and redistribute and redo. So that's built in. Of course, it might be frustrating, and apologies for whatever if this is not comforting when your car breaks down or whatever. But that is what these periods are for. After that beautiful trine, we get a sun's opposition to Saturn on the 27th of August, the same day that Mars moves into Libra, which I think also is a kind of like, I like that Mars will be in Libra. I was just talking with someone during a reading about Libra Mars and how it is technically considered in detriment in this place, but it's not because Mars doesn't function there. It's because it's harder to make decisive decisions for more than one person, essentially. That like if we are trying to make decisions that benefit everybody, that's a hard decision to make. It's because that's not the kinds of like martial decisions that we do. Like, and I think that having that Mars in Libra coming on the heels of Venus retrograde and prioritizing our personal values and kind of like ourselves and really getting geared up in this way, and then having this Mars in Libra being like, but how do we still kind of interact with each other? How do we still be thoughtful, harmonious? And that can lead to these communication mix-ups, these kinds of things where we're going to have to like reorganize ourselves, reorient ourselves. And how much do we want to do that for the benefit of keeping peace?
Yeah.
I think that Libra Mars is a real, if you can't play offense, play defense placement. I think that if we are operating that way, like we're in a time where you can play defense on so many different things. And I think especially Virgo is like health oriented. And so it is like, we're going into fall season. This is when, people start getting sick more. And so it's like upping your ginger turmeric tea stash. This is like getting and also like doing all of your medical stuff too. I'm not like advocating against science or anything, but like restocking your vitamin C that you haven't since when COVID or whatever, like getting all that stuff like defense going and like probiotics and like getting your body in that place that you feel because I do feel like Virgo's very in the body and like
absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's like a good thing to focus on doing, especially heading into colder weather in most parts of the country, at least for now. Who knows?
Yeah. Dare I say Virgos are almost too in the body. Virgos are so of the like actual like organic material realm. And I like all this about it's funny with like Libra Mars being, you know, not in its happy space, but it makes sense because, you know, but is Aries Mars a happy space? It's like, it just like knows how to do Mars things. And I think Libra doesn't typically do Mars things, but it is kind of our first reminder before we do eventually, you know, spoiler alert, get into Libra season. There's been so much of our self check-in and what we need, but this is like a reminder of that other, and maybe since it is Martian, other people might actually come to us with what they need, or maybe it is about after that kind of recalibration of self, maybe there is this influence to really meet someone where they're at or vice versa, or figure out like, I mean, God, have we not all been talking about like the Jonah Hill boundaries thing? I know we've been personally been talking about with some friend shit I've been going through where it's like boundaries are clear and presented and agreed upon. And a word I like love that I've been coming to like these last few years is being compatible, because it's like not everyone needs to change either. Sometimes things aren't just, some things are just not a fit, and like no one sucks because of that. And it's,
and Libra Mars is very about where do we push ourselves in those, because it isn't compatible. You're right, but it is. You maybe you don't like to fight, but sometimes you get thrown in the ring. So how do you handle it? And what, like, how do you maintain your integrity, your grace, your peace, your whatever you need to get through the day, your morality, and also, you know, either win the fight or do it the way that it needs to be done.
This like vibe also, I think, because, and it's very of the now, like, you know, we've talked about villain era. Like there truly might not, I think that's Libra Mars as well. Like there might not be a villain. It just might be an even split of like, it's amicable. Like, let's go. And I'm not saying like that means, well, it is Venus retrograde. Maybe there is some lingering relationship things that are still percolating up in this early Virgo time, especially with Mercury retrograde. I don't know. I've had also a few people like, when should I talk about this hard to talk about thing? It's like, it's not a huge wrong idea to do it during Mercury retrograde, because it might be the time to do it where like it's a bit softened, everyone's checking in and reviewing. So I mean, it depends on the thing, of course, but I don't know, I think it is encouraging to like those follow-up things if anything's been lingering with the relationship stuff, and that can be not just, you know, romantic love either.
On the 28th, we get Uranus stationing retrograde at 23 degrees and 4 minutes of Taurus, which I think will feel, you know, these are outer planets, so we certainly don't feel them the same way that we do a Mercury or a Venus. But I do think because we're just having a lot of retrograde right now, it does just reiterate that theme of slowing down, of re-looking at these things. We're not necessarily having the same kind of forward momentum, but I do think that especially thinking about Uranus does still offer opportunities for kind of breakthrough, of change, of, you know, adjusting to change too, and going like, okay, this is the new reality. How do we adapt in this kind of thing, giving us a little bit of slowdown. I know it's felt pretty fast for a while, and so I think that this does also kind of feel like this, how do we play some catch up, you know, as best we can.
Do you guys think of Uranus retrograde, and of course it's like that you just already said that like outer planets aren't going to be as impactful, but they do give a note of what's up. Do you think of Uranus retrograde curbing the surprise that we get with Uranus? Like, is Uranus direct more of its natural Uranus flow of like unexpected change, or do we think like the retrograde symbolically is more of like it's smoother because it's in its retrograde? Am I making sense?
You're making sense. I think for me, when I look at the outer planet transits, because they're generational, I think less about how this just my personal, but like I think less about how it behaves because we're not seeing it like so quickly. So I think what it is like a focus in that part of the zodiac. And so I think, you know, people that have that area they have placements there, whatever, like them coming into the news up and over a couple times to where it kind of sticks around more than like, you know, Trump's been indicted like what, 4 times now. It's like that kind of thing on a retrograde on your thing where you're like, another one, like I can't take another one, but it's like larger impact things. So, I think it's like more of a focus of just being in that area of the zodiac more, causing more, you know, those aspects to happen again, the squares and the trines and things like that. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it is encouraging that it's staying still or even moving backwards. So it is recovering or reshaking up old turf. So maybe not new surprises. Not that it has to be as literal as what I'm describing either. It's like that there won't ever be a new surprise, but it might be more focused on the old things that have already happened.
Well, I think it's also about kind of like now integrating it into your like worldview, if that makes sense, where it's like okay, now we have this, it's not as shocking anymore. It's either like, okay, in like the Trump example, we have all of these things. Okay, now what does that do to your opinion? And now what does that do to our interactions? Kind of things of like, oh, now that you have this sort of thing, are you rebellious because you deny all of this information? Like what was at one point kind of fringy is now not so fringy. And how does that change because it is generational and it is that like, I don't know.
Especially in Taurus consensus of what that is like.
This stuff becoming less and less radical because we're getting further in and we're retrograding and it's now like coalescing around it. So it is that kind of like gathering the group community sort of thing.
I think, I mean, we are in like tropical storm time right now too. And it's kind of that we see things happen. We know things are coming with hurricanes and things like that, and knock on wood Hawaii is a mess right now. I just, you know, for everyone that has been through a natural disaster and knows what that's like, we see things coming, we attempt to restructure, it happens, then it is aftermath, like going through finding bodies, not finding bodies, like all of that kind of thing where it's like there are pieces to that event. And I think the retrograde, and not that it means I'm not like predicting a natural disaster by any means, just as an example, like all the parts of that thing happen over, you know, sometimes the span of weeks, months, years.
Well, no, I'm glad I was just thinking about Maui when you said that at the same time, because I think that there is a lot of this. I mean, that's climate change, baby. It's here. And please donate to any verified resources to donate to, because it's going to take a lot. And it sucks that it's been a lot on the people, because I'm not sure that it was
climate related, but it is still a disaster.
Well, like climate and colonialism and
I mean, it's definitely horrible. And I think, who knows, because I think that, like I said, I think there are tropical storms, so hopefully that bypasses and they don't have like a second hitting of stuff. But it is just like, it's horrible to watch. It's horrible to see.
Well, and the consequences, which feels very Virgo, because I think Virgo works well with deadlines and consequences. The consequences are here as well for like, and in terms of, you know, beyond just even societal shit, just like our personal lives, like where, you know, we do have to at a certain point decide what the things we want to do. And I think that's what I do love about Virgo too, is like once they decide to go on a track, they really do it. And I think that's where they also have a lot in common with Leo. They can just get very tunnel vision in a sometimes really necessary way.
Yes. On the 30th of August, we have a full moon in Pisces, which we will, of course, talk about on our Patreon episode. So follow us on patreon.com/What's Your Sign podcast, where we do bonus episodes every month about the full and new moon. We will get into it, but I will just note quickly that is our second full moon of August. So again, we're emotional, we're spilling out, we're having a lot of things kind of like come to fruition or come to culmination. And so I think having these retrogrades there is absolutely like by design for us to reorient and reorganize based on these things and to kind of learning to readjust to our new realities, whether that be Venus retrograde downloads that we've had, friendship disruptions, climate change, news, whatever it is, we are learning to readjust and prioritize in our new realities. So good to know. On the 3rd of September, Venus will station direct finally at 12 degrees of Leo and 12 minutes at 6:20 p.m. It will, of course, still be in the shadow until October, but we are getting some forward motion. So if you have anything at those like 12 to 29 degrees too of Venus, of Leo, I mean, remember that this is going to be kind of coming back over those things. So we're not done with anything from Venus retrograde, I don't think. But we are in the forward kind of exit motion here too. So just to keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's going to be going over the same degree territory till the shadow ends October 7th, I believe. Yes. So that whole remaining month, might see things that popped up from before.
Absolutely. On the 4th of September, we get a Mercury trine to Jupiter. Mercury will be at 15 degrees and 35 minutes of Virgo, trining 15 degrees and 35 minutes of Taurus. And right after that, Jupiter was stationed retrograde at 15 degrees.
It feels very shoot your shot.
Yeah.
Hey, before I go retrograde, maybe, I don't know, maybe if it is, I was using astrology.com's kind of transit calculator, to go through the things, and their little descriptor mentions sending out pitches and resumes and plans and emails, and I think the Jupiter feels like more. So maybe if you're like only going to send it to these 2 trusted people, I mean, it's still Mercury, retrograde at the end of the day, but hey, maybe it's shooting up like, oh, and I'll also include this person or this, like Jupiter just is more to me, and I think it feels encouraging of whatever it is you're trying to share in terms of your message.
Yeah, I think it's all inward too. Like in your example of emails, sometimes that's like a confidence thing where you're like, oh, this person doesn't want me to whatever. And so it's that growth of being like, why not? Like, why can't I? That it's like an inward growth thing.
One right after that on the 6th, we get Cazimi, Sun conjunct Mercury at 13 degrees and 37 minutes of Virgo. And I think that is like that, I don't know, that feels either way of that internal or that kind of, I feel better that I went bigger than I was expecting, because now it's also, getting a little sun's blessing. Cazimi can also be, kind of obscuring Mercury in that way because it's in the sun and it's kind of overshadowed. And so that might also speak to that too, of being in the like shoot your shot way that, something bigger might be going on, that overshadows your work or whatever. But I think regardless, to feel the internal, like, I'm glad I went for it or did it. Like who could have known? Or also I'm thinking specifically right now of like, being up for a part and having like a celebrity get the part that you get, where it's like, well, I was never gonna be bigger than, Brad
Meryl
Pitt.
Streep.
Yeah. Whoever, like, of course they were always going to pick that person, but I'm glad I made it to this point and was even in the running in this like, that is, affirming rather than going like, oh, it was some, rival. It's not like as petty in that way,
You guys are saying things I'm thinking. It's like very tripping me out, because I was going to say, coming from casting, it made me think about, people that apply. These are for reality TV shows, people that apply. And I've seen too many times at the end, it can be as simple as like, oh, we don't have anyone over 60. Oh, well, we said no to this one guy like a month ago. Oh, cool. Is he free? So I think too, just like, a no's not always a no. It can be just like a not right now, or it can be something simple like there's 2 brunettes and you are great. Like, so I think people think like that rejection is just a final stamp of, okay, you have to go hide in a hole for the rest of your life, where it's really not.
No,
it's
not at all.
Because it is in other areas of life, I think. Like, we don't want to encourage that behavior in, say, like stalking relationships and things like that, where it like there is stalk. Well, even just like romantic pestering, or you know what I mean, where it's like shit. There are people who I think embody that. A cat collar is like a really simple example, where it's like, I'm just going to ask every single person walking or whatever.
Yeah.
And
I'm persistent. And I think you're scary.
We've, especially I think women who are like, it's put on us a lot, towards us a lot. It feels like, well, I don't want to be like annoying and asked to go on the show again, or, you know, like, and so I think it's finding that balance, and especially talking about some Libra energy and stuff, like finding where it fits and what is appropriate, and when you've, you know, outstayed your welcome, those kind of things.
Yeah. And I think we'll find that out quickly with this transit too, because following that on the 8th of September, we'll get a sun trine to Jupiter. And I think that again will either be that like, you know, you're doing this too big, because again, Jupiter expands, and we have a lot of positive associations with that, of luck and exuberance and things like that. But I think also in this example of like, if you're going too hard in these other areas where it is like a no is a no. I just watched that Below Deck Down Under thing. But it was also like the, you know, I don't want to use this too much as an example, because I don't want to make light of or downplay anything, but I think we are definitely talking about that persistence and not honoring boundaries and not listening and all that. So when it is like, when you've gotten a bunch of gentle no's, like, you might get a bigger gentle no, or it might go into a like, okay, well, you're fired, because you clearly can't take the gentle, like, we're not interested in giving hard no's all of the time, you know, that kind of thing. So I think just be mindful not to, whatever it is coming up for you in this, you know, time period, I think is meant to, you know, again, like solidify our Venus retrograde kinds of things, because we've got that station direct.
I was going to say, it's going to be
our self-confidence instead of our self-destruction. So I think and I think again, it's like, there's going to be little things where it's like, hey, here's a second chance to bolster your self-confidence, not self-destruction. Here's a third chance to do it. And if we don't, then it's like, hey man, we told you so many times, this is the path to take. Like, you got to take a time out. Bye.
Well, in the background transit that's happening, which you just mentioned, Julia, with Venus, is like, it's going to be sextiling that Libra Mars during this repath time around this like September 8th, 9th area. And so I think that, you know, Venus and Mars being in agreement to just aids that quest of like, oh no, my wants and needs are really in sync right now, and fucking listen to what I'm saying. Like, I'm giving you clear, Virgo's very like, I'm giving you clear instructions, even though the Mercury retrograde might also make it a little fuzzier.
Yes. On the 14th of September, we have a new moon in Virgo, which of course, again, we will discuss on Patreon. The 15th, Mercury will station direct. So I
wasn't that quick?
I know,
just like that,
and just like that, it's done. You know, I'm sure it will not feel like that when we're in it, but it does. I was like, oh, already? Like when I was going through.
Sometimes they're so fast.
Well, Mercury are. Yeah, I think that Mars retrograde really messed with all that.
I think. Yeah. I mean, praise Goddess for that Mars retrograde, because now I'm like, oh, 3 weeks. Yeah. Okay. see you there. Whatever. But let all these things go retrograde. I don't care, as long as it's not 6 months of Gemini.
Well, I think it just show that those personal, like, we do have frequent Mercury retrogrades. We live through them. Just be aware. And like, the personal ones, Venus and Mars, really pack quite the punch.
Yeah. Whenever someone was saying Venus at 12 or something, because that's my Scorpio and my Pluto and Scorpio, and I was like, oh, that means it's going to be a Venus Pluto square, like in my head when you guys were talking, and then I was like, oh, it goes around every year. It's like I've had that before. I don't know why I'm freaking out now.
Every year, and it's like a day, you know.
Totally.
And that same day, we're also going to have a sun trine to Uranus, which will be retrograde, as we discussed, 22 degrees of Virgo and 57 minutes, trining Uranus at 22 degrees and 57 minutes of Taurus. Which again, I think is just, again, all of these ones where it's like, they happen in layers, astrology is real. You get it. On the 16th.
It feels like coming out of the cave to a new dawn or something, especially after all this reflection and introspection.
Yeah, absolutely. On the 16th, we will have a Venus square to Jupiter. This is going to be, I believe, the second or third pass of this Venus Jupiter square that we've had, which has been a signature of the retrograde, but Venus is now direct, Jupiter is retrograde. So I think we'll maybe get we might have some interesting news that day, and certainly we're going to have to see how the rest of this plays out to say specifically what that will be around. But I would be interested in watching any kind of news stuff that day. But also typically that Venus Jupiter square is not necessarily as tense a square as we might have, because it is the two, because it's Venus and Jupiter involved. That can be very, coming up with a creative idea and something I think a little bit more fun. So I don't think it's one to necessarily be fearful of, but also notice where that square has happened before. I gotta for you to kind of get some hints. I
feel like with the Venus too, since it's been retrograde and now we're covering that turf, especially a check-in from Jupiter, I think for a lot of people has been like, I can only do so much in one day, or like so much in this thing, or like I think the over committing feels very checked in around Venus and Jupiter. And I think a lot of people have had that with Leo being very much of like kind of more one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
On the 19th, we have a sun opposite Neptune, which, I feel like we're going to be maybe a little fuzzy around those days. This Neptune transits have been personally rough for me, but I think it's more just in this, like we've been saying, this orienting to new reality kinds of things and having clarity. And Neptune is retrograde as well. And so this might also be more of a clearing, more of a bringing together of things that are seemingly opposite but are not, which is the lesson of opposition. So I think just remembering that.
Yeah, it feels like things are really happening. Neptune's far away. So
or just maybe having some more based on other revelations and other kind of musings going, I'm actually more clear about this than I thought. I don't see these as opposed as I did previously, but who knows? It also might just be a day where we're feeling kind of, I think, just managing through all of this too, just managing kind of general anxiety, general unknowingness, I feel like I'm turning and trying so many things and it's hard to tell what's working. That might just be a day where we're feeling that, and that's okay too, to just kind of keep that in mind and to know that that's par for the course when we're going through, I hate to use another organization metaphor during Virgo season. I feel like it's all the ones that I use, but it is that, like, the closet gets messier before it gets cleaner. When you have to take everything out and look at all the piles and everything too. So it is that, that doesn't mean it's never going to be clean again.
I think too, this is like, this is a personal gripe that I'm sneaking in towards the end of the episode, but I work with a lot of people who tend to write the wrong month or like typo on those type of things. And I'm always the person that writes back an email that's like, you do mean August, right? Or whatever. And it's not because I don't think that, like, I don't know what they mean, but it is for me always a reminder of like, other people are reading this and like, what if we're forwarding this and like how, let's correct things as they come up. And I think sometimes people think I'm being like, I don't know. And so I like, to me, it's like, this is a good day to just say like, hey, like, just so you know, like, I know what you mean, but I think it's best to have records correct when on shared documents and things like that, instead of just correcting them all the time, like actually saying, hey, maybe you should check the the way you date things or whatever. Yeah.
Be aware that this is a thing that we're doing. That's a good one.
Yeah.
On the 20th of September, we have a Sun trine to Pluto, our kind of closing aspects of Virgo season, similar to that Mars trine, about the same degree, obviously, because Mars had moved into Libra, but this is happening at 27 degrees of Virgo in 59 minutes, trining Pluto at 27 degrees and 59 minutes of Capricorn, which again, I like when we have these kind of even opening transits, closing transits to really kind of like close the circle of the spell that is each season. And we'll see what that means, but I think that is kind of to me feels very much like the sigh of relief after you've finished a project kind of thing, of seeing all of the things, and now you get to go on again. Forgive me for an organizational analogy, but that, like, you know, the closet project is done, and now you get to just look at your closet and live your life and see how this functions for you.
Yeah, I think it's Virgo season and the organizing stuff. It is just like, what is stopping you? Because Virgo can find all the things to fix, or I got to start organizing this. And it doesn't have to be as like literal organizing and clean. This can be messy. People do this as well. South Node Virgo person here. It's like, oh, I have to like actually organize my records. It's like, what are the things that are taking up like the mental space that's just been so long that is gonna just feel like, why did I do this?
Well, it's the harvest. It's all, getting all of those fruits and veggies and figuring out how they're going to last through the winter. Are we canning? Are we freezing? Are we, pickling? What are we doing to make sure that we have enough for the rest of the year? And it's a mark of abundance, right? It's not like, so it is like remembering those things in those times. Like, I think, Julia's example, and Stevie said in a previous episode, like shopping in your own closet, you have a lot of stuff. Like that's the message, is like, look how much we've created or whatever, and how do we organize it to get through the rest of the year, because we're closing down, into holiday season soon and everything. So it is like
and eclipse
moving
season
fast. Yeah.
Coming right the month later. So no, yeah. And also when you zoom out and I think August Leo season was very similar to Virgo season. There's not like a ton of stuff going on. It's not like crazy loud like we had in like early spring and a lot of ingresses. Like I think it is still like getting your shit right time.
Absolutely.
Especially in this year that's been weird to say.
And I think just contending with the other stuff that we've had to get, how are we just like processing, synthesizing, reorganizing based on all of the stuff that we've gone through up until this point, truly, so that's not a small task either, even if it's not necessarily new stuff. It is still important work to do. And on the 22nd, the sun leaves Virgo and heads into Libra at 11:50 p.m. and that is the end.
And that's Virgo season.
I know. I'm excited.
I think it feels very building on what we've already been doing in Leo season. It feels very much part of this. If this is a play, third act. Well, maybe the eclipses are the third act, but
we'll see.
Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde, eclipses. And then don't worry, another Mercury retrograde will be right around the corner.
And you're going to get to see your family at the holidays.
Yes, that's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Not to throw this in at the end, but we just had a little bit of family time recently, and I was asked this question by a family member. This is all like a very liberal circle, but like, oh, where do you guys get your political comedy? Like, what political comedy do you watch? And I was like, I don't think, do we? Like, it's not funny anymore.
Oh, I watch it.
But who would be who? I
watch Jon Stewart, and I think it's great. I know it's not on right now, but because of the strike. But I actually think it's one of the better ones. Anyway, we can.
Just a thing that's come up.
That's fair. You're like, oh, okay.
I was like, I don't know.
Good. Well.
Yeah, Virgos Thank you guys. Okay. I'm gonna go eat a cheeseburger now.
We love you. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.